Welcome to Uniquely Wired Podcast, where we uncover the beauty and uniqueness of autism. Hi, I'm Nani, your host and passionate advocate for autism. Join me as we explore the world of autism through heartfelt conversations and informative discussions. Hello, we have a special guest today on the podcast, my girl Fiorella. I'm so excited to have her here, and today's topic is going to be on ABA therapy, which we know is very controversial for a lot of people, but as far as for me, my experience has been wonderful, and I know for Fiorella as well. And I'm excited to dive into this episode and have her share her transparent and raw experience with ABA. Okay, so Fiorella, can you please introduce yourself?
First of all, I love how you say my name because that's exactly how you should say it. It's very rare that people say my name correctly.
Wait, because you're Spanish, right?
Yeah, I was born in Venezuela.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, because I'm Spanish too, so that's probably why I can say it correctly.
Yeah.
Because my name is Jormari.
Mm-hmm.
But people have a hard time, rolling the R's.
Yeah, very hard.
So,
I mean, you can imagine my name. I'm like,
yeah,
sure,
yeah,
close enough.
It's beautiful. I love it. I love
Thank
it.
you.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So I'm a stay-at-home mom. I have 3 girls. Emmy, my oldest, is diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder at 22 months old. And, like any parent, it just kind of threw us on this roller coaster ride. And I know we're talking about ABA specifically, and I definitely have gone through that and have experienced that and have my own opinions and experience about it. We had a good experience about it. So I'm excited to share that with you and just talk about it because I think it's super important. I think it's every parent's number one question right after they get a diagnosis is should we, what is it, what should we look for, and it's a big deal because it kind of becomes a big part of your life and your children's life if you decide to go down the ABA route. So I'm super happy to be talking about it with you today.
Yes, I'm so excited to have you. And like I said, to get real, one thing that I always say in my podcast since I started is, I want to be as transparent as possible. And I love your journey. I love following your journey. It's inspiring. And I'm sure the many people that follow you would agree with me. I always say, I like to follow people that are showing me the transparency, the truth. I don't want to see the cute,
no sugarcoating
you know what I mean?
Right? There's no point.
Yeah, yeah. And I love to see your daughter. We both have girls on the spectrum. So I think it's a beautiful thing and I could relate to it. So my first question will be, what were your initial thoughts and feelings when considering ABA therapy for your child? And how did you go about, researching and deciding that this was the right approach for your family?
Right, yeah. So just to give you a little backstory, Emmy was 22 months old, Sylvia was 3 months old, and she was diagnosed at the end of 2019. So we weren't able to get therapies going till the beginning of 2020, and then the pandemic, 2020. So that was fun. So honestly, once we got the diagnosis down and started looking for speech, obviously was the first thing, OT and that stuff, we were able to get in before the pandemic hit, at the end of 2019. But ABA, we obviously the doctors, that's the first thing they give you is pamphlets on ABA and things like that. We had looked into it, and I think depending on your Google search, you'll get 2 different routes. I got the scary route. So, and we had talked to some parents that had very negative experiences with it. But they were also it's different for every child. You hear that a lot. And I was just too afraid, honestly.
Yeah.
And with the pandemic and everything, we honestly were honestly, let's hold off on it. I didn't feel comfortable jumping right into it.
Right.
And we just went with just speech, OT. Then with the pandemic, everything went teletherapy, which was terrible, did not work for us. So we actually ended up doing no therapy for 1.5 years. So it was just me and Emmy and us at home, just working with her, just understanding her autism and where she was on the spectrum, like it was almost like by default that we had to do that because everything was shut down.
Right.
Um, and she was so young, I think, too. The thought of her going to somebody else for that long, because the hours can be long for a 2 year old. And then also having somebody come into the house was not an option at that time with the COVID restrictions.
Right.
So I took a little like online courses, specifically the Mary Barbera course, and she is ABA, like she's a BCBA, she writes books about it. So doing that course at home honestly opened up my like knowledge to ABA, and I was able
Mm.
to like apply a lot of techniques at home myself for her. She ended up starting to say a few words. She was able to like sit at the table with me and started to like I was just trying to pull out words at that point and just trying to like understand where we were at.
Right. Because
Then
it's very difficult. And we should mention
yes,
she is nonverbal, right?
right. She's not anymore, but she used to be.
Right,
Um,
right. Like I say for my daughter, she's semi-verbal
right,
because
yeah.
she still can't fully communicate, but she is in
Right.
that echolalia and scripting
Yeah.
era in her life,
Yeah. I
which
know.
is a good sign. You know, they do
It's like
say it's
it's
a
like
good
this
thing.
weird spot where like they can't have a conversation and they can't always tell you what they need, but it's not like they can't either,
Right,
you know? Like the potential is there, you're just like still trying to pull it out. That's
right,
where Emmy's
right.
at right now. Like I know she has the
Yes,
ability in her, but we're still connecting the dots in her brain if that makes sense.
absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
So after a year of doing that, I felt like I hit like a roadblock with her and she wasn't like progressing as much. I also
Mhm.
had Sylvia who was like a year old and needed more of my attention.
Mm.
And I was just burnt out. And I said, I need
Yes, talk
help.
about it. Talk about it because that is true. I
Like
remember
two
I had
under
Jacob
two with
too.
one on the spectrum and like quarantined and
Oh,
it was a lot of emotions, but I'm thankful for that time because I learned a lot and I learned
yeah,
so much about Emmy. Like I was keeping records of like her sensory stuff, her speech, her stuff. I had all the time in the world to just like focus on her.
right.
And it wasn't
Hmm.
until Sylvia got a little bit older and started demanding a little bit more attention,
Mm.
that I was like, let me look into ABA now that things are opening up. And I toured different ones. And in my mind, I was like, if I'm not getting a full like gut feeling, we're out. Like, we're not doing this. That was, so it was never like
Same. Hmm.
we were in and I think that's a lucky place to be in because not a lot of people have that option of like, it's fine, we'll just stay at home. Like, people have to
Right.
work. And I
Hmm.
understand that it's like safer for them to be in an ABA clinic than to be at a normal daycare or normal
Yeah.
preschool where they don't
Hmm.
have any kind of support. So
Right.
there's also that. Like, I was like in a privileged spot to be like, I can stay at home with them full time.
Hmm.
Um, so we looked into ABA. I saw a few, and I knew what she needed based on my time with her at home. So that
Mm.
really helped me figure out which ABA clinic would work for her, like what I was comfortable with. I
Right.
came in knowing ABA terms, like I came in like I knew what I wanted. And I feel like if I had done that right away after she got diagnosed, I would have just been like, whatever they tell me, I guess I'll do because you just don't know, you know?
Right. Right. And I know last week we mentioned too, and the topic was different, but we had also mentioned, that teamwork that falls into the
Yeah.
therapies as well,
Oh,
not
so
just
much.
teachers, but it goes with therapies as well. And to
Yeah.
have those successful sessions,
Mm-hmm.
we know that it requires that we have to get off our comfort, even if we're
Yes.
more on the shy side or the quiet
Yeah.
side. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That could be a little difficult, but it's possible.
Yeah. And I think it's also like finding the right place that will work with you. I think that's a big deal. And
Mm-hmm.
I came in my husband makes fun of me because I came in with like a binder. I was like, this is Emmy in a binder. And they were like,
Yes.
who are you? Like,
Uh,
what are you
I love
doing?
it. I
I was
love
like,
it. I would have
no,
been
no,
like,
no.
yes,
This is what
mom.
you, I was like telling them what to do. I was like, no, no, you need to work on this. She needs
Yeah.
this. And they were like, she's been in ABA before. And I was like, no. They were like so confused. It's like, you don't
ABA
know who
with
you're dealing
mom.
with. Yeah. I'm like, you don't know.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Yeah, no,
And like, I
I'm
don't
with
know if
you.
they ended up throwing away all the paperwork that I gave them, but they were definitely like, okay.
Yeah.
You know, like they
Uh-huh.
knew what they were going to be dealing with for the next few years.
Right. No, but it's
And
true.
honestly, they liked it. They were like, we have parents that are so disconnected that it was refreshing to them to be like, we want, like, they want to help the child the best they can. And
Yes.
they know, like, this specific clinic knew the importance of that teamwork between the parents and the therapist. So I was like,
Mhm.
you, like, tell me what to do because I want to know. Like, that's why I'm here. If I knew what to do, I wouldn't be here. Um,
Right.
and they were also, because I was receptive to that, they were receptive to me also being like, you need to change this isn't working, like could we look at something else, you know?
Right, right.
So
Which is great because that's when the teamwork comes in.
yeah.
They're sharing with you their perspective as
Yeah.
professional therapists because we're always going to have our perspective as parents, but
Right.
we have
And
to
like
also
we're
be
the
open.
expert on our kid, right? And they always reiterated that to me, like, you're the expert on Emmy, we're the expert on behavior, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So like you need the two to
Yes,
be able to like have any kind of progress, I feel like.
right.
Um
To collaborate together and
So
work
because
like
of
that.
all of these factors, I think that's what ended up making it such a good experience for us, for her in
Mm,
ABA. And we only started with 12 hours a week, which I was
okay.
comfortable with. And it was honestly
Mm-hmm.
because they didn't have a spot, they didn't have enough time for us to do any more. And I was like, actually, that's fine. Like, I don't want to do more than that because she was
Mm,
so young at the time. And that was the max amount of hours that she ever did in ABA was like 3 days a week 4 hours a 4 hours a day.
I know
Um,
it's so many. You're
yeah,
just trying
I
to
know,
figure out like, okay, how many hours are they going to speak? I have to
I
always
know,
revisit my daughter's IEP because so I can
I
remember,
know
okay,
so
this is how much
much.
she's getting.
It's a full-time job for sure.
Yeah, we have all these things in our head. Well, with that being said, I guess we'll jump to the next question, which is, can you
Mhm.
describe some of the positive changes or progress you've observed in Emmy
Yeah,
since starting ABA therapy? Which I'm sure it's a lot.
it's a lot. Honestly, when I look back on it, I was like surprised at how much they were able to accomplish because she wasn't going like the full time.
Mm,
Most kids, because parents work, I understand they go
right.
30, 40 hours a week. Um, so because I'm a stay-at-home mom, I was able to do less, and I was part of me was like concerned. I was like, is you kind of get in your head like, is this enough? Is this enough hours? Because everybody
Right.
else is doing so
Yes.
much more. And
Mm-hmm.
I had to like keep reminding myself like ABA doesn't end in the clinic. It comes home and like we work on it at home as well. And so it took me some
Mm-hmm.
time. And I think that was also like why there was so much progress because I was able to like I had a lot of time at home to apply what
Mm-hmm.
they were trying to work with her on. But the
Right.
main things were she stopped eloping. She stopped running away.
Wow, that's huge.
I know, that like
That's
was life changing,
huge.
honestly. And it took me a
Yeah,
while to get used to her not like she would start walking away and you get like that panic anxiety inside of you. And I had to like
absolutely.
stop myself and be like, no, she's just walking away to like go play right there. You know? Like
Right.
she's a kid. She's allowed to not be
Yeah,
2 feet away from me.
right.
She would
Mm-hmm.
learn to like she learned to hold my hand while we walked together, like just staying with me. Um,
Mm,
she learned
wow.
potty training was huge goal for us. That
Oh
one was,
man.
I still
That's
say
a
to this
whole
day,
topic.
potty. You should do an episode on that.
I am because that is
Yeah.
huge.
That
That's
was, I always
huge.
say, like, that is my biggest accomplishment. Like, it's not even getting her to talk. It was like the potty training was
Yeah, because I mean,
huge.
think about it. I don't know how people feel about boys, but now that I have a boy,
Mm-hmm.
I, I'm looking forward to potty training him, but at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, hmm, I'm a little hesitant because I don't know where that's gonna go. Versus girls,
I'm telling
they
you, I have
sit.
all girls, so I am no help in this department because I have all girls. I have
That's
no
true. That
idea.
is true. And I appreciate your honesty. Yeah, with
Good luck. Let
Ellie,
me know how that goes. That's gonna
yeah,
be
I
fun.
will. I will. With Eliana, yeah, like you said, they're girls and it's like you really want them to I don't know, I guess it's a little more I don't know how to describe it. I'm not sure how you would say this, but I won't say it's serious because for boys too, we got to watch for them as well. But I feel like it's more of a sense of privacy with girls. You know,
Well,
this
because
this is your
eventually you have that time where you have to take care, when they're older.
there you
Puberty
go.
for
Thank
girls,
you.
yeah,
Yes.
puberty for girls is like the bathroom situation is much more of it has to be a safe place.
Yes.
You have to know how to do it. You have to it's important for later on for us, for sure.
Yeah, which again, that's another topic for another day because
I'm not ready. I'm not ready, girl. I'm not ready for that.
do you follow moms with like older autistic girls? And
Um,
I'm always like, oh my
there's
gosh,
very few though. There's very few. Can we
that
just
is true.
right?
But I follow Jada Boo. Do you follow
I
her?
didn't
She just went off to
know.
college. Oh my gosh. I'm planning to have
I'm gonna
mom
write
on an
this down
episode.
because
She just left to college. I'm gonna send you her Instagram. Oh my
yeah,
gosh. I see her and just how far she's come. It
yeah,
just gives me so much hope for, our girls who
yeah,
are younger.
yeah,
So that's a huge accomplishment.
yeah. Potty
The potty
training was
training, the
huge.
elopement, that's huge.
And honestly, her speech was like immediately, like within the first month or two, she just started like verbally requesting
Wow.
things, more than she did during speech therapy. So I was like, huh,
Hmm.
interesting, because she was constantly put in situations where it's like, what do you want? And
Mm,
and she had to, like, I wasn't there to facilitate, right? Like,
yeah,
we know our kids. If she gives us like a look, I know that she wants something, like we're just
right.
connected in that level.
Right, right.
And I
Mm-hmm.
think she needed that time away from me to be like, okay, mom's not here. I need to figure out a way to get what I need, you know? And it's like she
That's
needed that
good.
push. And I think ABA does that. As scary as that can be for parents, it's good to put them in that situation and get them out of their comfort zones a little bit.
Yeah, and I think something I've heard, because I'm gonna just talk about it. Something I've heard about ABA from other families is pretty much they don't like the demands.
Right.
And to me, growing up Puerto Rican, a Hispanic, I don't know how it was with you, right? With your culture being a little different than mine, but I feel like
Mm-hmm.
my mom was strict. Like demands were placed on us.
Yeah.
So I cannot, and I don't know how you feel about this, but for me, I don't think we should just, look at our children like, okay, yeah, they're autistic. Well, they can't do this. We can't put this pressure on
100%.
them. Like to
Yeah.
me, it's like, no, she's autistic, but that's not limiting her to do other things. We limit our children. We do.
Yeah.
And that's the truth. We put limits in our children that they can
Because
literally
we
do.
fear and we feel for them like more than they do. You know what I mean? We feel twice as much for
Right.
them.
Right. How do we know if something is going to work if you don't try it for yourself? So, one thing I always tell families is try it for yourself. I'm going to share my
Yeah.
experience. Another family is going to share possibly a terrible experience with ABA.
Right.
You cannot be afraid. You can take advice, you can take suggestions, but at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
day, what is best for your child?
Right.
That's it.
And
And I
I
think
think
that's with every
also,
therapy.
yeah. And I think that with ABA and like autism, it's not just like I wouldn't just focus on the behavior, right? Like it's a spectrum of so many different things. So if you're only putting demands because of behavior, but you're not tackling the sensory part of it, I think that like lacks, like the demands will be so much harder on them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's also like what type of demands are you placing on them? Are they reasonable? Are they age appropriate? Are they useful for later on in life? Or you just want them to like comply because
Mm-hmm.
you just want to make your own life easier? I think like
Yeah.
it's the type of the demand that you're placing on them too plays a big role in it. And that's where like the teamwork comes in. Like you have to be a team with the therapist and
Mm-hmm.
put your priorities as like your family and as a parent, be like, this is a priority for us for her to know, to learn, to like, so please place this demand on her,
Right.
you know?
Right. Like I know with potty training, when she started school, I let the teachers know, she is
Yeah,
being potty trained. Can you guys implement this in the routine at school? Same thing with
right.
ABA, and they did. So we were
Yeah,
all happy and on the same page. And there was, really
yeah, because
nothing.
like she needs to learn how to go, like, that's a life
That's
skill. Like,
huge. Like I personally refuse for my child to be in a diaper for the rest of their life if I know
no,
they are capable of learning this.
and they're capable of so much, but I think there's always, I with Emmy specifically, I don't know with anybody else, but from like my experience with Emmy, I feel like there's always like this wall that I have to
Mm,
like break through with her, and
mm,
I have to stand my ground. And it's so hard to stand my ground so much all day, every day. But like
yeah.
but once you do it and once you break that wall and you see what she's capable of, it's like, okay, I know that this is worth placing that demand on her, and I can gauge her level of like, okay, I am going to break through this wall, or you know what, this wall today is just not to be broken
Mm,
today, you know?
mm,
And I think the
that's
only
good.
way to like learn that is just to spend as much time with your kid as possible, or to be as engaged in the therapies as possible, you know?
Yeah,
At least with
I
Emmy, that's been like my experience.
yeah, I agree. You know what? I thought Eliana was not ready for potty training when I did start
Yeah.
potty training her.
Yeah, me
I
too.
was completely wrong.
Well, I was
This
like,
girl
how
was
can she
ready
be
to
potty
tackle.
trained? I thought she needed to be able to speak or communicate before we potty trained her.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
learned through
I
just
thought the
like
same
educating
thing.
myself
Yeah.
that they're like, no, you don't have to verbally communicate. You don't have to have that communication aspect to be able to potty train. And I was like, what?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
Yeah. And
so
there's so
ABA
many
definitely
ways.
played a huge role in that.
That's beautiful. And I guess that will be one big, I mean, I don't know if that was an ABA goal or milestone, because that's the next question that your child achieved.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or if there is another big ABA goal that you started with, and then by the end she was able to achieve that specific goal.
I think well, the things that I was really tackling were potty training, being able to self feed, being able to stay with me. Like it was like safety things
Mm,
and like necessary life skills. Like, can she pull up her pants? Can she wash her hands? Can she sit at a table and eat safely and appropriately? Can she stay with me so that I can keep her safe? But can she answer to her name so she comes back? Like I was like,
right.
all of my goals were completely targeted to me not needing ABA anymore.
Wow.
Like
Okay.
how
So
many goals?
she does not take ABA anymore.
So we stopped ABA May of this year. She just
Okay.
stopped this
Okay.
year. So she was in it since she was 3 to 5, 2.5 years,
Oh,
almost 3 years.
wow.
Yeah.
My daughter
So it
did
like,
5 years.
yeah,
She was just moved out of ABA. She pretty much
yeah,
graduated.
yeah.
So that's
We never
awesome.
got to like the graduating part.
I mean, it wasn't like a graduation and a little
No,
certificate or
but you know what I
anything.
mean?
You
Like
just
it was more on my part than on their part, is what
okay.
I mean.
Okay, I got
Like
you.
I
That's a good point to
initiated
bring
the
up.
exit.
Yeah, yeah.
Which
That's
like people
good.
don't know that they can do. They just kind of wait for them to tell them, "Okay, like you're done." And it's like
Right.
everything is on
Mm-hmm.
you as a parent, like how much you want to do, when do you start, when do you finish, who is she with? Like that's on you, not on them. And I feel like ABA clinics have this thing where, and I don't think they mean to,
Right.
but it's kind of like this is what you do, and you just kind of get swept into the wave of like what they want you to do,
Right.
and really like they work for you. You don't work for them. Like this is your kid.
Right.
Like
Oh, that's
you know,
good.
and
Yeah.
I feel like parents should look at ABA like that. Like, are they working for you or are you working for them? Because that's when goals get
Mm.
kind of messy.
Girl, that was good. You just opened up a whole can.
There you go.
Listen,
You're
we're
welcome.
being real. Okay, I'm just saying that was good. That was really good because
Trademark
it's
that.
true.
I'm gonna trademark
Yeah.
that quote.
Yes, I am, sis. Yes, that is going on my socials. You don't worry, okay? Because you know I'm going back to this. That is really good. But it's true. It is a true fact. And I think a lot of parents don't know that. And in
Because
my
they
case,
don't,
Aliana was in it
yeah,
for 5 years, but I knew
yeah,
she needed it still. I knew she
yeah,
still needed that consistency with ABA. And once
yeah.
they
And
said,
like
you know,
every child
mom,
is different.
she's good, she's come this
Mm-hmm.
far, she has reached the goals that we have for ABA specifically, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh. Okay, great. I was on board
Yeah.
because I'm like, well, this is awesome.
Hmm.
So that's amazing. That's really amazing.
And I think also something that pushed me also to end the ABA, besides I could tell that she was like over it herself. Um, and I felt more confident at home. I was like, okay, I let me see if I can actually do this without their help. And so I started lowering the hours. So we went from 3 days to 2 days for like a couple months. Then from two
Okay.
days to 1 day for a couple months. And so it was
Mm,
a slow, it wasn't like from day to night, you're not going to this place anymore. Because that would be like a
right.
very big change for her.
Yeah.
So I would also recommend people who are transitioning out to do it slowly, just to get yourself acquainted with like your routine at home with them now because they're used to being an ABA and then now they're at
Right.
home or going to school or whatever they're doing. So that helped the transition, but also like she had a therapist the same therapist the entire time. Like
Oh,
every day she went to the same
wow.
therapist. I know this like
That's
always shocks
good.
people. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
this always
because my
shocks
daughter
people when I
had,
tell them that.
I mean, within the 5 years,
Hundreds.
she had like, yeah, if I can't remember
I
how
can't
many,
even
then it's been a
count.
lot.
Yeah, because yeah, I know. And then people are like, "How did you make that happen? Like, how is that possible?" And it's like, of course, there was that 1 or 2 day where like she was sick and she was with somebody else. But if she was with somebody else, I asked them to let me know and tell me who she was gonna be with and if Emmy knew her or not. And I said, if she
Mm,
doesn't know this person, if she's never been with this person, she's not going in that day.
she's
Like I'm
not going
keeping her
in.
home.
Yeah,
No.
and that's
And
it. And you
I
had
think
the
that's
authority.
just that was just a line for me. I'm not saying like every parent needs to do this, but that was just a line for me. And towards the end of the year, this therapist that she was with was quitting and she was moving on to a different career kind of a thing. And she only stayed with the company this long because of Emmy because she had that bond with her. And so she was an
Oh,
integral role in like helping us phase out of ABA and she was like, "I will
wow.
stay until Emmy's good, until I know Emmy's good, basically."
That is
And I
so
st- and I'm
sweet.
friends with this therapist. Like I'm going to her baby shower soon.
Oh
Like we
my
are like we hang
God.
out now. Like Emmy sees her and she's like a part of my family now.
That is
Because
beautiful.
but it's
I
like
love that.
and like that took a lot of like sacrifice and work on our end to be able to make that work because we would always be like if this therapist's schedule changed, then our schedule will change along with her. Like whatever hours she's working, that's what we're gonna do. Which
Mm-hmm.
brings me back to homeschooling. If you follow me, you know we
Yeah.
homeschool. And
Mm-hmm.
so that was a big thing for me is like, if I homeschool, I can work her academics around her therapist so that she
Mm.
can go on days that are good, people that we like, any time that's good for her. Like we're not like
Yeah.
you know? So, and I think
Yes.
that made it so that she was only there for 2.5 years and only went 3 days a week, but they were very productive sessions because of all of
I
these
love that.
things. You know
I
what I
love
mean?
that. Yes. And when I decide to homeschool my children, because it has been in the back of my head for a
Yeah.
very long time.
Yeah.
It's just, the circumstance we in right now, it will be very difficult, but
Yeah.
it is definitely something that's in the back of my head. But I think one of these days, eventually, I want to do an episode with you again on homeschooling, just to kind of, dive deeper into the topic.
Yeah, I'd love
And
to. Yeah.
in case there are families out there that are listening, you
Mhm.
know, the want to know a little bit more, especially
Mhm.
more with children that are autistic, because I
Yeah.
feel like there's so many people homeschooling, but they don't all
It's
have
not the same.
children that are, yeah,
No, no,
exactly.
no,
So
no.
you could give some
It's
tips and
not
tricks and all
like
the things.
it's not like the Instagrammable perfect little homeschool thing that you see. Like our homeschooling is different. And I you know if you follow
Yes,
my
and I
account,
love it
you
because it's
know.
real. It's real. I
Yeah,
love when
like
you post
she's
your little
not gonna sit and
videos.
do these like beautiful workbooks that they sell with like these handcrafted things. Like that's not happening, you know?
Right.
Like but it can
Exactly.
still be done.
Yeah, yeah. Um, my next question will be, what resources or support networks have been valuable to you as an autism mom, when you were navigating, you know, the ABA therapy world?
I think that well like I said earlier, like Mary Barbera really helped me in the very early days, she has a lot of books and courses. So I did take her course, and that helped me understand like the functions of behavior and like just really how to implement things at home, which I think is very crucial because it's one thing happening in clinic or having somebody come into your house and do it, but to be able to you yourself know it and apply it, I think that was like my best, you know, resource as far as
Mm,
ABA goes. I think
that's good.
ultimately though, Emmy is like has always been my best resource as far as everything goes with her, with ABA and everything. Because like I could have seen other people do it, I could have read all these books, I could have done all these things, but like she has to like let me know what works for her, and being in tune with her
Yeah.
has always like led me to the right decision because
Yes.
it's her life, right? Like this
Mm-hmm.
is going to affect her ultimately. So it
Yeah.
doesn't really matter if you read all these books and you don't know your child's needs. Like you don't get to know your child on like a deeper level. And I feel like they will
Mm-hmm.
always guide you in the right direction. So I think
Wow.
definitely Emmy has been my greatest resource for sure.
That's so beautiful. I love that. Um, this has been such a insightful episode, honestly, because again, you were real about it, and I loved going back to that part when you said, you know, is it a therapist's choice or is it your choice as a
Right.
parent? Because at the end of the day, it is so true. And that
Yeah.
that encouraged me, honestly. So thank you so much for saying that. You know what? I'm the type of person that if I know I need something, I'm gonna admit it. You know what I mean? Like I'm
Exactly.
not I'm
Oh my
not gonna
gosh, yeah.
fake it. Listen, we all
No.
are in a learning journey. Mom and
Yeah,
dad that are
nobody
listening.
knows how
Like,
to do this. Nobody knows what
yeah.
the right way to do this. So if you don't ask for help, you're only hurting yourself and your child. Like,
Yes, we are
yeah,
all
so
learning.
yeah.
So looking ahead, my last question,
hmm
looking ahead, what are your hopes and goals for your child, process now that they are done with ABA?
I think my goal right now is to just I mean she still is in speech and OT and she will be there for I'm gonna admit years because she's just not there.
Mm-hmm.
But my goal is for her to just have a fulfilling childhood.
Yeah.
That is like one of the reasons why also we left ABA. I was like, it's time for her to just be a kid. She's 5. I don't
Mm-hmm.
want her to miss out on her childhood
Mm-hmm.
due to all these therapies, which I know she needs, and I know
Mm-hmm.
she'll always need some sort of extra support.
Right.
But my goal right now is just for her to enjoy her childhood in the best way that I can provide it for her,
Mm.
you know, with her diagnosis.
Yeah.
Um, we're really diving more into homeschooling now that she's a little bit older. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
really excited about that.
I
And
love it.
now, like, I feel like before I was growing and learning with her about her autism and about ABA, and now I feel like I'm growing with her in like school and academics and learning and homeschooling. So we're like in a different learning journey right now as
Mm-hmm.
she's like getting older.
Right.
Um, but I think it's all has all like built up on each other. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
like still that like nervous mom that I was back then, but like for different reasons, because our
Right.
kids go through different
Mm-hmm.
seasons of life and I don't know how to
Absolutely.
handle them, like she's my
Mm-hmm.
firstborn, so everything's
Yeah.
kind of new every year. But
Absolutely.
yeah, I think just my goal for her is just to be physically healthy, mentally happy, and just enjoy her childhood is just my goal right now. I just want her to have like a happy and healthy childhood.
I love that. And same here. I think, I want my children to, one of the things that Eliana is suggested once the school year is ending is ESY. And, it's the extended school year for those that don't know. And
Mm,
I had sent her not this past summer, but the one previous to that. So last summer. And
mm-hmm.
no, thank you.
Really.
Yeah, it's just not gonna happen again. So when this summer came, I didn't, put her in it. Granted, I'm not saying
Yeah.
every ESY is the same. I'm just saying my experience the way it was
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
what I was hearing. You have to
Yeah.
understand when you have a child that can't really speak to you about what's going on behind the scenes,
No.
your brain is constantly under stress. Like, people need to
No, that's the
understand
biggest
this.
fear for every parent. Yeah. It's like
Yes.
their physical safety we're
Yeah, it's
talking
like you
about,
have a
not just
baby
like,
walking around.
yeah,
It's, it's like having a baby, a newborn walking around, not being able to
pretty
tell you
much.
what's going on.
Yeah.
So I know that you also have, I want you to share your groups that you have for those that are listening that may be in your state or whichever other state you have your growing on the spectrum.
Yeah, so in this um homeschooling journey that I went on, I also was like, okay, well, how's she gonna make friends? Like that's like the big question, right, with homeschooling,
Uh-huh.
especially autistic kids. And I said, well, no one's getting together because we were just coming out of COVID and everybody's kind of scared to like be in person and everything's online. And there's so many resources, so many moms I've connected with through Instagram and all of that.
Mhm.
But it's just like not the same when you like meet somebody in person and
Yeah.
connect on that level. And I was like, I'm just gonna have to get out there and like meet people, which is not my comfort zone at all. But I decided
Uh-huh.
to create Growing on the Spectrum, and it's a support group for families here in the Tampa Bay area. And we have monthly in person meetups. So I found a place that we meet every month, or we go to a park, or like a playground, or
Yeah.
sensory friendly events in the area. And I
Yes.
have been able to meet so many families,
Mm-hmm.
gain resources in our local area, because
Mm-hmm.
it's different. Every city is different, every state is
Yeah.
different. And so, as much as like online support is great, it's different when you're like, yeah, I've been to this school, I've been to this therapist, I know this therapist's name, this one's not good, this one's
Right.
good. It's different.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, we have like over 100 people in my group now. It's been like two
Wow.
almost 3 years since I started it, and I've convinced some moms to homeschool. I'm always
So
like,
funny.
"Hi, nice to meet you. Want
Yeah.
to homeschool?"
Uh, that is hilarious. Oh my
So I've
God.
actually convinced a couple moms to eventually, I mean, not really convinced, but by
Yeah, yeah,
sharing
yeah.
my experiences, they were
Influenced.
like,
Yeah.
hmm,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and so now we actually get together weekly, and we all have girls that are around the same age, that are on the
Oh.
spectrum, and they come over to my house once a week, and the girls have a play date, and we share homeschool resources, and so we made like a
Wow.
little pod of like autism mom homeschoolings in the area.
Oh, I love that though, because
Yeah,
you've
and so
built
these
that
girls will like have
community.
each other, you know,
Right. Like
when
we
they
were all
grow up.
cool.
Yeah,
Like,
like you grow
yes.
up with your friends. Now Emmy has her friends that she grows up with, and they all go to therapy and they're all homeschooled. It makes it like more relatable for her, so she doesn't feel so
Yeah.
like outcasted. Like she's on the spectrum and she's homeschooled, so it's like double whammy for her of like
Yeah.
feeling
Yeah.
out of the
Yeah.
loop.
Yeah.
But so it was really important for me to have, not only for myself to be able to have moms to connect with, which
Mm-hmm.
has been like a godsend, but
Yeah.
also for Emmy to like build friendships in her own way. Obviously
Yes.
they sometimes talk to each other, but they definitely interact with each other the more that we
They
get
know
them
each other's
together.
language. That's what I always say. They know each other's language. They know what they're saying. That is
Yeah.
so beautiful. I love that. And I think you're amazing and everything that you're doing. And, I just pray that God continues to give you that strength and the strategy to keep, encouraging other moms and
Amen. Thank you
to
so
let
much.
them know that it is possible.
Yeah,
It's
and just simply
possible.
that, right? Like I'm not saying you have to do what I'm doing, but I'm just saying this
Right.
is what we're doing, and it was super helpful for me to watch other moms do whatever they were doing, and you can
Mm-hmm.
take like little bits and pieces of what you see from everywhere and make it work for you, and I think that's why it's important
Absolutely.
to share our lives a little bit
Yeah.
because it can be very isolating. So the less isolating that we can make it, the better, I feel like, for
I
everybody.
love that. I absolutely love that. Um, I guess to close off this episode, I would say, or I would ask, what is something you would tell those moms that are just starting ABA therapy or have been recommended ABA therapy?
Mhm. And my biggest advice with ABA therapy is don't rush into it. And I think this is kind of like the opposite advice that you're usually given during this like tumultuous time of like what is happening. Um, and it might be a little controversial because everybody's like, you need to get in it right away because it's going to help him so much. And I don't disagree with that. I think, get on that wait list, do your research, but like don't jump into the first one that you see. Just take it's okay to take some time for yourself to process the diagnosis, to get to know your child, to then like make the right decision for your family, whatever that may be. And whether that's full-time ABA right away or in home or not, like it's all up to you, really. It's not up to the doctors, it's not up to the therapist, it's up to you as a parent. So don't take that lightly and don't feel pressured by anybody to do anything
Mm-hmm.
because ultimately like I always say, no therapy is better than bad therapy. Because
Mm.
to undo all of that is so much more work later on.
Yeah.
So if you
Mm-hmm.
take your time with no therapy or minimal therapy or whatever you want to call it, it'll open up doors for you to be able to make the right decisions and get your child in a better environment to make therapy more productive.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Fiorella,
yeah,
I
I think that what
cannot
I would
thank
say
you.
is that like no therapy is
Mm-hmm.
better than bad therapy is like what I would say to every single parent.
That's that's a really good point. You dropped some really good gems. That's all I'm gonna say. But again, Fiorella, I mean, I couldn't have thanked you enough for, taking the time to be on this podcast and for your yes. Again, thank you for your time, for all the beautiful insights you have provided us and all the families that will be listening to the episode. Um, yeah, and I can't
No, thank
wait,
you
for
for
our
like,
next. Uh-huh.
yeah, let's do this more. I'm down. I'm
Yeah.
always happy to talk about it. I can talk about this all
I
day. It's
love
all I
it.
do.
Yes,
But
yes,
no,
I
thank
love
you for
it.
like having this platform and taking the time and resources to put this together.
Yeah,
If I was a new mom, I would love to like listen to all these episodes and get so much information. I feel like when Emmy was diagnosed just, not that long ago, none of this was available. And so I think it's
right.
so awesome. So anything that I can contribute or who I can work with or however we can help each other out, it's
Yeah,
really, really important to do so. So I'm
I
so
love
thankful for
that.
you for inviting me.
Thank you so much, friend, for being here. Guys, thank you for listening, and I will see you guys again on the next episode. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
If you enjoyed today's conversation and want to stay connected, please subscribe to my podcast on your favorite platform. Don't forget to leave a review and share my episodes with your friends and family.